Check, check. Check 1, 2, 3, 4. Check 1, 2, 3, 4. Check, check. 1, 2, 3, 4. Awesome.
All right, happy Monday. Good to see you guys. Feel like I haven't seen you all in a while. I know you guys probably missed me. Any hands? None? Okay, there you go, a couple. But I appreciate you guys. Thank you, Jesus, for another day of life. We're back in it. We're rolling. It is a Tuesday for me, but it's a Monday for everybody else as we get rolling to play UNLV on a Friday. But I'm proud of our guys. But it was a good bye week. That Hawaii travel is no joke. But it was good to kind of get some days to get ourselves back in order. We had some good practices last week, and there's still a lot of things that we need to learn and grow from that game, but especially after a bye week to be able to look at the first 6 games. I mean, we've only played half of our season. We've got 6 more promised to us. And so for us as a staff to look and see what are we good at, what are we not good at in all 3 phases so we can continue to play our best football down the stretch. And I think that's the biggest message for me to our team. And I went up and talked to our team. I said, guys, me and you have to always answer 2 questions every day. Am I improving and am I having a positive impact? Like that was my focus for our team in the bye week. Like I got to answer that as the head coach. Our coaches got to answer that. Our trainers got to answer that. Our players got to answer that. Am I improving? Like, am I in this meeting? Am I at this walkthrough? Am I in the treatment room to actually get better? Or am I just kind of trying to go through the motions? Am I actually having a positive impact? That matters to me. When I'm around someone, am I impacting them in a positive way? Or am I a negative Nancy that's bringing somebody down? So I'm proud of our guys growing because that's my message to the team. We have played 6 games. Our guys have done some really good things through 6 games. Not perfect, still a lot to improve on. And we've got a really big Game 7 coming up. It's the most important game of our season because it is the next one. And we've got to get a lot better through these practices to continue to grow, to play our best on Friday night. Because I know Coach owed him well, and he's going to have his team ready to roll in all 3 phases. They got weapons across the board, and we know this one's circled, and they'll be ready, and we need to work our tails off to be ready too. With that being said, open up for questions.
What is it about Coach Odom's program that you observe that has made it so successful the last couple of years? I
got to say, just gritty. I mean, you look at, in all 3 phases, it's just gritty. And what I mean by that, Mike, is, they just find ways to make plays, to do it for each other. They on the road beat Houston, beat Kansas, beat Oregon State, and those are big time. I'm shocked they're not ranked in the top 25. They deserve that for sure. And they play hard. Once again, in all 3 phases, they blocked multiple punts for touchdowns. Their best players play on special teams. Ricky White, one of the best receivers in the country, is playing on special teams. Number 21, one of their best receivers, one of the top returners in the country, right? Like, that's a mentality of a team. Like, they're a close-knit crew, and they are gritty and play tough. They've been down in games. They fight their way back to go dominate and win. I got a ton of respect for how he runs that program and their entire team in all 3 phases. Like, that's what I see is this is going to be an absolute heavyweight fight. And I know they'll be absolute ready, and we got to work our tails off too. But this is a really good football team. When I meet with our coordinators and I watch it holistically in all 3 phases, Barry Odom, his coaches, his players, they bought in. They are on a mission. They know everything's in front of them. And this is a big-time game. It's the biggest one for all of us because it's the next one. But obviously going down to their stadium to play them, it's something we're really excited for. But I got so much respect for him and how he trains his team, and I know they will absolutely be ready Friday night.
You brought up special teams there for a second. That almost seems like it's kind of where it starts for UNLV. And I talked to Barry on the Mountain West Media Days, and they play a ton of starters on special teams, including arguably the best wide receiver in the Mountain West Conference, for that matter, too. So how much does that kind of set the tone for them, and how big of a challenge will that be for you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. Special teams is where offense and defensive players come together, right? So I think so much of the mentality of your team you can see through special teams. And Coach Odom and his staff have done a great job. And once again, it's not just 1 or 2 guys. Ricky White's on kickoff return, one of the front line guys. They put their best players in situations to compete and help the team. And that's a testament to how hard they work, how hard they train. And you can see that with how they've played this season. They're getting better week in and week out. And the amount of success they had on special teams, they're leading the nation in takeaways and turnover margins. So that's a team stat too. Not only do they take the ball away on defense, lead the nation in picks, they also don't turn it over on offense. And then, they're one of the top rushing offense, one of the most explosive offense in the country. They're one of the top, stop rush defense in our entire conference and the country too. So there's a lot of compliments that when you look at a team, it's not one stat or one thing. Like, you look at all 3 phases. They're a team that has talent across the board. They've done a great job in recruiting. And, they play extremely hard. They're physical. They're gritty. You get something on them, they're going to stay in the fight. And I respect that a lot.
How impressed have you been with, ever since the quarterback change? That's something that could, easily divide a team, but that's really, I know you and I don't have privy inside their locker room, but it seems to have brought them closer together.
It does. I mean, and to your point, I don't know the inner workings of their locker room. Like I said, I think the world of Coach Odom. But number 6, Williams, I mean, he has put the team on his back. He's made the exact plays. He's one of the highest rated quarterbacks on the West Coast right now. Makes great decisions with the football. I mean, one of the most athletic quarterbacks, and we've seen some athletic ones. He's one of the most athletic ones we've seen all year on film. I mean, it is a nightmare to get him down the pocket. And when he takes off, it's not like he's going to take off and get 5 or 6. He's taking off for an explosive run. They've got design runs for him, too. He can make all the RPO throws. He can make the deep throws down the field. And he's got weapons all over the place. I mean, when you see their offense, they got a really good, well-trained offensive line, physical at the point of attack. And they've mixed in triple option looks. They got shots down the field. They got RPOs off it. They got a lot of different formations. So it's a very well-run offense. A bunch of tempo is going to be mixed in. So I think, when number 6 came in, however it all went down, like I said, I'm not privy to that. I mean, that team's rallied around him, and he's a team guy. I mean, every time he scores a touchdown, I watch TV copies to see how guys are. He's celebrating with his teammates. He's finding teammates to go celebrate with. Like, that shows that's a close team.
White is outstanding for them as a receiver. We've seen some good ones. Royals had a big game for Utah State. How does he compare? Like, maybe does he do better, or what is his call?
Yeah, I thought Ricky White was one of the best ones in our, not just me, one of the best ones in our conference last year, and he's only gotten better. He's one of the most smoothest route runners that I've seen. He gets in and out of his breaks very well. You can run the whole route tree with him. And the thing about number 11, Ricky White, I mean, they move him everywhere. He could be at number 3, number 2, to the boundary, to the field, and he will block his tail off. We just talked about it. He plays on all the special teams. Like, he's a team guy, but he is a matchup nightmare wherever they put him. And they'll throw the ball deep to him. He's got multiple touchdowns where it's just, just like stop routes where he just give him the ball in space. If you play off, they're going to get it to him. And good luck making that tackle one-on-one. And he's had multiple touchdowns just that way. So, and number 21, Jesus, he's a dang good football player. Not only is he an elite returner, they'll put him in the backfield. They'll line him up everywhere. They'll motion him across the board. And both these guys have been there. They're seniors. Like, they know what it's. They know the culture. They know what they want to do. They're on a mission, just like our team. Like, there's a lot of similarities, and this is going to be, a big-time battle Friday night.
Obviously, it's not the championship game, but, it's got big-time implications for that, for the CFP. And to have that championship game down there last year and already have guys that have played in that stadium in a game that's meant a lot, how's that going to help?
Yeah, I think just, for a lot of our guys, we've been down there. We know what it feels like to win a game. And I think on the flip side, like I said, I'm not in their locker room. I know this is a big match for them too, knowing that we were able to go. They had a great season last year, and us able to, win the championship down there is a testament to our players. And I know they can't wait to get another shot at us. And I know on the flip side, we can't wait to play them either. We have so much respect for their program. It's week in and week out. Every game is the most important game that you play in because it's the next one. And it would be no different if we played someone else, but we all know that this is a big-time game. It's a big-time opponent. It's in a big-time arena. It's on Friday night. And especially when I watch their film, regardless of even the record, like, this is a really good football team. And I know I'm not the only one saying that. Like, our players watch it. Like, Coach, this is a really good team we're playing, and we have to be our best. And that's where, like, I talked to our team multiple times this year. Like, guys, I don't need anyone to put on their Superman cape to go play UNLV on Friday night. But your best is going to be enough, but it is required. That's in your prep. That's how you live your life. That's how you practice. So then we go down there on Friday because there is going to be a lot of hype and buzz and all that. It's a big game on both sides. Our guys need to prep the best they've ever prepped this week, turn the right to play their best.
Is Jackson Woodard the best defensive player you'll face this year?
I think the world of Jackson Woodard. I really do. Watching his film, me and Coach Koetter talked about him. Even just they were able to play on some days that either we were off or I was in the hotel before our game watching him. Number 7 makes so many plays. How he's trained, how he plays. I know he transferred in with Odom from Arkansas. I think the world of him. I promise you, after the game, I'm going to go find him and say I do. I'm going to tell him that personally because I just love how he plays the game. He finds a way to make physical tackles, sideline to sideline. He's, I think, first or second in the country in interceptions as a linebacker. That just tells you how much he flies around. He's a captain. I see him on the sideline. I see how he's with his team. I love how Woodard plays the game. Like, as a linebackers coach, I love how he plays the game. And I think, number 1, their safety plays relentlessly as well. The amount of – you even see in the Oregon State game, one of those forced fumbles he created on a tackle. That's a hard play to make. Across the board defensively, they're tough sledding when you go against their defense. And I think number 2, one of their edge rushers that transferred in, like, he's good. I mean, he's got a lot in his toolbox in regards to his rush moves. And they play hard. When you lead the nation in turnover margin, that is a monster stat. That's not like something, that's kind of out there. That is a monster stat that directly correlates to winning games. They create a ton of takeaways on defense, and they do not turn the ball over on offense. Like, that's a testament to their team. And Coach Odom, what have they done?
You brought up the Jesus just a moment ago, but I've seen on kickoff, you guys have tried squib kicks, kicking it out of the end zone, number of different things. I'm not going to ask for your plan for him, but how important is that going to be to have dialed in?
It's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen it go sideways. We've seen us grow in our coverage units too, and that's what I told our team. It is all about us learning and growing, and we continue to work it this week. Today's a Tuesday practice. We worked on our coverage units, making sure our lane integrity, everybody doing their job, not trying to do somebody else's. On both phases, on punt and on kickoff, like, we got to do a great job covering it down. Our kickers got to do a great job with where we're kicking the ball to. And we got to do a great job in our coverage units. I mean, it's especially with explosive returners like we've seen, and I think Jesus is one of the best in the country. We got to do a great job playing together. It's not going to be one guy that tackles him. It's not. He's too explosive. That's okay. We need multiple hats there with the right leverage so we can keep him hemmed in. But we got to keep working on it. I mean, it's something that we've shown to not do it well at points, and we've shown that we can do it well. So now we got to be consistent, and that is. And I know I maybe sound even like beating a dead horse sometimes, guys, but there's so many things that you can focus on when you play a game, right? Like even you brought up, BJ, things that are maybe going to happen 2 months from now and all these things. Like, yes, all that stuff's going on and our players are hearing it. I'm getting texts and calls. For me with our team, nothing moves the needle but how you work, how you prep. And that's where all I talk to our players about that is directly you earn the right to play your best and how you prep from Sunday to kickoff. And regardless if we're playing UNLV, who's a dang good football team, or someone who maybe hasn't played as well, it doesn't matter. And you see that in college football with what's going on. Like, it doesn't matter. Now, we've got a big-time matchup with one of the best teams in the country in all 3 phases. But it's our same process. That's what I told our staff. Like, let's make sure our process is improving every week. For our players, can this be our best week of prep? Because it needs to be. Why? Because it's the next one. And building that into them. So then when it gets to Friday night, I want our guys to attack success and go cut it loose. Not, oh my gosh, this is a big game. I hope I don't screw up. No, man, you've earned the right to play your best. Why? Because on Tuesday and Wednesday when no one was there, you were working your tail off. You were prepping when no one was around. Like, that's how you go cut it loose and play your best. Not perfect, but that's what we need to do in all 3 phases.
Staying on the field, has there been a dialogue there? I mean, does he feel like he's got a target on his back here? I mean, obviously you need him out there.
Yeah, we need him out there. I mean, hit lower tubes. Come on now, But he's no, I mean, he's our guy. And I say that. I've talked with scouts about him. I've talked with the media about him. I mean, you talk about a young man in 34. He's been kicked out of 2 games. One of them was we got back that it was the wrong call, but I mean, he's our guy. I mean, he works his tail off. Today at practice, he works his butt off. But that's not a shock because that's who he is all the time. That's how he was last year. That's how he was in the spring. That's how he was in fall camp. And that's where, as a captain on our team, it doesn't matter how he feels, who we play. You are going to get Alexander Tubner's best because that's who he is. And now him being able to continue to bring guys with him on that journey. I promise you right now, if we were to all leave, he's probably in that meeting room watching film right now with multiple safeties because that's who he is. He knows one speed. He knows only to give his best. And him being out there and staying out there is a huge part. And we just got to continue to lower his strike zone.
He's a guy that's always had a chip on his shoulder, but,
Yep.
Being kicked out of games, do you think that adds to that chip?
It's a good question. I think for me as a coach, it's adding on, okay, we got to make sure he hits in the strike zone. And we got to continue to grow in that. I don't know if it adds to his chip or pulls away at it. That's a good question. I do know for me as a coach, it's very black and white. You got kicked out for targeting. Let's lower your strike zone so we don't lose one of our best players.
Coming into this game, it just seems to me, watching all of our games and watching their games on tape, both of these teams are better than they were last year. So where do you think you guys are most improved from last December? And where do you think they're most improved?
Yeah, I think just like anything, Bob, I mean, to put one thing on that's hard. There's so many things on a football team. There's so many plays in the game in all 3 phases that you're constantly working on. There's one-on-one matchups across the board all the time. From, like Jay brought up, our kickoff unit is going to be one-on-one across the board versus their kickoff return. Who's going to win? So I think just like anything, you're working to grow those fundamentals and techniques from January to October to November to December. You're always working to grow and improve. And so to say where we're improved from last year to now, I focus on where we're growing week to week. I mean, guys, I'm a firm believer. You are a new team every single week. Guys get hurt. Next man up. Carry the flag. It's college football. Like, that's the reality. No one's going to be like, oh, you didn't play well, but that's because a backup's in. Nobody cares. Next man up, carry the flag. So just like I know they're talking to their team, for us, we need to play our best game 7, because we've had 6 opportunities to learn and grow. They've played one more game than us. I told our team this. They've got one more opportunity than we do to grow and improve in their fundamentals and techniques. So we've got to make sure we capitalize in regards to how we practice to continue to improve.
You said that when it comes to Ashton, whether it be 1/2 or 5 overtimes, he'd be ready for you guys.
Yep.
All the way back at fall camp, you said that you wanted to identify everybody's breaking points. 34 touches, career high time, 31 carries. What is Ashton Genty's breaking point?
I haven't found it yet, Jay. I'll be honest with you. I mean, and that's a young man that he practices like it. He practices to play that way. Every day, everything's tracked with GPSs. And every day, Coach Hilgard comes to me middle of practice. Ash is high today. Ash is getting up. I'm like, that's Ash. And it's not just him. There's multiple other players on our team that that's our team. We don't deal with, and that's Boise State football, the blue collar, the chip on their shoulder. It's not, all right, guys, it's practice. We gotta do it now. No, that's player led. The Alexander Tubners are going out there freaking playing their tail off on a Monday morning practice, because that's the opportunity they have to improve. So with Ash, I mean, he is ready to give everything for this team. Not because people getting the ball handed off to him, whatever it takes to win the game.
What is that dialogue like, though, as he gets over 30 carries, over 30 touches? And are there some guys that if they say you're good, you just kind of maybe trust them more than whatever the GPS is?
Absolutely. Yeah, and you see your guys and how they train and how they've built themselves for that. We've had a lot of practices to October 20, whatever. We've had a lot. So we can see these guys in regards to how their bodies are trained and what they do to where the output they can have, and training them so they cut it loose and play fast and explosive on games. And Ash is one of those. So obviously in game, it's always a feel to see, okay, when does he need a breather, when does he not? But I know the opponent we're playing, and every team, we respect all, fear none here. We know this is going to be an absolute battle. I mean, the only loss they have this year is in double overtime on a crazy ending. Right? I mean, this team is battle-tested that we're going to play Friday night, and that's a testament to how they train in all 3 phases. And that's what we're going to tell our team, this is a heavyweight fight. These guys will not back down, and they will be on the attack in all 3 phases. We need to be ready for that, and we need to be on the attack in all 3 phases.
Turnover margin, I mean, obviously they're getting a lot, and you guys haven't been able to get a lot defensively yet. You only have 4 offensively, so I guess you're at least not losing the turnover battle. But how long can you sustain this where your defense is just not getting takeaways? I mean, how bad?
Yeah, but we need to, and it's something that we just like any stat, I use stat to not to either pat yourself on the back that you're doing something well or be pissed off about. It's how do we grow this? And for me as a coach, there's got to be ways to rep this and change. And we're working our tails off at it, from how we drill it in practice to how we rep it in drills to how it's repped in team situations, because we need to create more takeaways on defense. We've had 1 interception on the year. Can't happen. I think UNLV's had 15 or 16. Those are huge plays in the game. And so we need to create more takeaways on defense. And so we're training it, we're working on it, and it's something we have to improve. And hats off to our offense, not turn the ball over. We've had some situations where it was close, so we got to continue to work our ball security, but we got to take the ball away on defense, and we got to secure it on offense.
I assume that you don't spend a lot of time looking at top 25 polls, but when you hear that Oregon's number 1, any kind of emotional reaction based on how close you came to beating them on the road?
Yeah, I mean, I don't pay attention a lot to those things. To your point, I think it's a game that I've learned a lot. We've had to learn a lot even since game 2, Mike. And I think just like anything, is we had every opportunity to go win that game, but we didn't. And if they're the number 1 ranked team in the country, or they weren't, those are still the lessons we need to take away from it. And so no different for our team. There's going to be lessons that we're going to learn this Friday night versus UNLV. So looking at it, I think just like anything, it shows guys, we can go beat anybody. I learned that week, but we didn't. We didn't make the plays enough. They beat us. End of story. And so that's no different whoever you play. Like, it's all about what do we learn, what do we grow from. And for me in that game, like, I learned a lot from that game, from issues with special teams on offense and defense and how to make sure we make the plays that we make. Because at the end of the day, you lose on a last-second field goal like we did Oregon, or you lose by 50, you still lost the game. And there's going to be different lessons learned, no different when you win a game. Like we talked about Hawaii, like, we won that game, proud of our team battle. There's a lot from that game we need to continue to learn and grow from. So looking at it, Mike, I don't pay attention to the outside. I try to focus very, very streamlined, fire hose focused on what moves the needle and what helps our team grow. And that's my messaging to them. I think at the end of the season, we really go back and self-scout and look at some games. It might bring some different emotions back. But I know even in the bye week, it's strictly one play at a time, from special teams to O&D. What are we doing well? This fundamental is really good. Let's keep up how we're doing it. This schematic is really good. Let's keep it. This isn't. We got to grow this. This is what we're giving away. Got to change it. And at the end of the season, we'll probably look back and have some different thoughts on each game and the emotions that come from it. But right now, it's all about how we're growing from week to week.
So just with the turnovers, with how many UNLV have compared to you guys, can you identify maybe what they're doing that maybe you guys aren't doing as well? I guess what's the disconnect or the difference there?
Yeah, I mean, they're doing a great job playing with, great vision in the back end. They've created a lot of interceptions. I mean, Jackson Woodard, a linebacker, having 4 or 5 picks. It's huge. I think number 1 has 4 or 5 picks themselves. So them together have 8 to 10 picks somewhere in there by them just themselves. I mean, they're doing a great job playing off QBIs. They're doing a great job catching the ball when it's thrown in their direction. They have relentless pursuit on defense, so some tip balls are in there. They're getting them. They're creating a lot of forced fumbles by how hard they tackle and how hard they play, and they're getting those fumbles. So there's a lot of things you can look at that we need to improve on defense in regards to how to create these takeaways, and obviously it's on film that UNLV does a much better job than us.
2 sacks by Shea against Hawaii. I think it's now 7 sacks by your secondary this season. When you're getting more than just your linebackers and ends in there, what does that do for your defense, and how well are you liking your blitz packages?
Yeah, it's a huge testament to the plans that were put in place and our guys buying into it. And no different. I mean, we've done a really good job creating pressure and confusing quarterbacks and creating sacks, but that is not just a testament to the guy that got the sack. There's a lot there shouldn't be anywhere to throw the ball. Right? And there's a lot of times in Hawaii that our DBs did a much better job from the week before to where there's nowhere to go with the rock. And so then the quarterback's got to pat the ball, and what happens? The rush is able to get home. But a guy like Shea, especially, I mean, Shea hadn't really played a lot of dime prior to that game. Alexander Tubner goes out. We had some issues. Shea goes in there and has 2 sacks. I mean, that's a testament to him as a senior, playing well, getting better, not perfect, growing, had to deal with the cast to start this season. Like, that's a blue-collar Boise State football encompassing moment for me is Shea Oladipo going out and playing the way he did.
You talked about having to kind of manage and pay attention to what Genty has going on outside and be careful with certain things. How's that going?
I think just like anything, Johnny, we're working through it every day. And I meet with him. I meet with our media team. Like, we are in Ash's life to protect him and keep him focused on what matters most, which is him being a 20-year-old, him focusing on being the best football player he can be, the best student he can be, the best young man he can be. For me, even the best young man of Christ he can be. Like, I talk to him, like, what are you feeding yourself? I'm not talking food. Like, what are you feeding yourself? Are you listening to the right things? What kind of podcast you in? Have you been going to church? Like, I want to help surround him because the amount of influences pulling at him that want his attention, I can't even imagine. I know what I'm getting, and I'm not Deuce, and I can only imagine what he's getting. But he's such a phenomenal young man and teammate that it is my job to protect him, to make sure that the time that he does give outside sources for either media or time, we got to be very calculated with it so he can still be a 20-year-old that's focused on continuing to grow.
When it comes to him, again, your being here is a big reason why he's here. So after you got hired, when was the first time you spoke with Ashton? Was it in person, on the phone? And just how did that conversation kind of go for you?
Yeah, Ash is a young man that when he was 17 years old and he early enrolled here, like even as the defensive coordinator at the time, he's just such an engaging young man, right? Like, I remember we went to church a couple times when he was a young freshman, and I just so blown away, not only on how he was as a football player. I mean, he walked on campus as an early enrollee and was scoring 70-yard touchdowns against our starting defense. So first I was frustrated with him. But he's just such an engaging young man. He's got a smile that'll light up a room. So our relationship was growing. I was very, just so impressed with who he was, even coaching on the other side of the ball. And then when I took over as the interim, even getting to know him on a deeper level and seeing how much he loved this team. And it wasn't about what's he going to do at the end of the season. It was about the team finishing the season. And then him staying here, even with all the outside, pulling him to leave. He wanted to be committed to this place, leave a legacy. Just our relationship has even continued to grown every single day. And I'm impressed with him every single day. I tell my wife that. Like, there's times I go home and just what either he says to the team or his actions, who he is. I mean, there's so many days that I'm blown away by who he is as a young man. And he does some things in the field that I think the country's blown away at, me included. But every day that I come to work and see how he is as a teammate, every time we meet, it's all about others. It's about the team. It's about how he can help this guy grow and what he's seeing. It's not about Ashton. It's about the team, and that's why it's a testament to him. And he's a humble and hungry competitor that I've grown to be very impressed with. I'm excited. I mean, God has an amazing plan for his life in football, but even more importantly, off of it.
Social media has a lot of fun with Ashton, the way he stands up straight up in the backfield. Yeah. And I think a couple of your other running backs do that. Is that a strategy thing? Is that an eyesight thing? Yeah. Why is that?
It's a great question. You're going to have to ask Coach Jamo about it. I promise you when he runs, I don't coach him one bit on how he stands. He can stand however he wants. That's a good question, though. I mean, I've much people have asked me, and I'm like, I do not have the answer to that. That'd be a good question for Coach Jamo. I love how he does it, though. Now it fires me up. All the, Mike Myers or whatever it is, tweets have me cracking up.
With regards to the short week, obviously having last week off to prepare for them, does that give you a bit of an advantage, you feel?
I think just like anything, you could look at it both sides. I'm a firm believer in you only grow in playing this game by playing it. And so right now I look at UNLV as they've played 7 games. They've got one more game to grow and improve in all 3 phases more than we do. And so I've told our team, we're playing from behind the count. We got to improve. We got to grow because they got one more opportunity than we do. And hopefully we handle business in the bye week and in our prep, focusing on us growing. So you could look at it both sides.
All right. Thank you.
Appreciate it, guys.
Coach.
What impresses you most about head coach Spencer Danielson?
I think he is the right coach for the right time, the way college football is right now. I think he's really positive with the players, and he's real consistent in his own skin and how he is. He's the same guy every day, and he's a positive guy that's for the players, but yet he tells them the truth. He tells them what they need to hear, whether they want to or not, and I think they can see that he's genuine in what he says to them.
How daunting is that? The 13 interceptions you look at from UNLV.
They do a really nice job of taking the ball away. They have some ball hawk guys in that secondary and at linebacker. I mean, they're legit. I mean, it's not like they're lucky. They've made the plays. They're very well coached on defense. They have a lot of defense. They do a lot of different things. They don't just sit there and give you one look. I mean, obviously their head coach has been been successful as a player and as a coach at the highest level. And you know, they hit on their transfers. They hit. They've got some really talented guys there. They're playing good. You got to give them credit.
What stands out to you about Jackson Wood at number 7?
His length. I think he played his best game in the Oregon State game. His length, his speed off the edge. They move him around. He's versatile. They use him in different ways. He's more like an NFL outside linebacker. He's a dropper. He's a rusher. They move him around. I think they do a good job. They've got three guys I think who are really good playmakers, and those guys have made plays.
And, yeah, I mean, you probably obviously you had some watch the Mountain West Championship game from last year. So how do you feel like this team, UNLV being, has grown even since that kind of moment?
I think when you watch that game, I mean, that game doesn't matter right now. I mean, I'm sure it matters to the psyche of both teams in different ways, but everything kind of went wrong for UNLV in that game. And I'm only talking about Boise's offense against UNLV's defense. I mean, Boise State hit a lot of big plays, and I mean, don't get me wrong, you still got to make them, but some of them were a little bit lucky. Like on the long touchdown pass to Bolt, their two guys ran into each other and fell down. I mean, you can't. That had nothing to do with game planning. That was just luck. So I'm sure that UNLV feels like that they didn't put their best foot forward, and I would agree they probably didn't. I mean, they had a lot of things go against them in that game. I think they're playing at an extremely high level right now. I don't think that's the kind of game it's going to be this week. I mean, that's not how we're built, really. I know from the Boise State offensive coach's standpoint, they didn't know if they were coming back in that game. They didn't know if they had a job, so they let it all hang out. They had a little bit different kind of a game plan than we're going to have in this game. So I don't see it going the way that game went last year. That's neither here nor there. That's just the truth.
Cam Camper, I mean, consistently every game getting up numbers. I mean, is he maybe a potential NFL guy, Dirk?
That's not my decision to make. He's finally healthy, and he's been playing at a high level since he became healthy. I'll be the first to admit that I didn't really know what we had, because he didn't practice in spring ball and he didn't practice in fall camp, so I didn't really know what we had until he got healthy. But he's a really good route runner. We can move him around. He knows all the spots, and he's playing good for sure. But I don't know about the other part.
How about with Ash? Just what you would.
Yes, I think he is an NFL player. I'm going to go out on a limb on that.
But just his toughness down the stretch in that Hawaii game. I mean, at times we've asked about him not playing in the second half, and then I mean you rode him to the end of that one and picked up a road in there.
Yeah, well, as I said, I think maybe we haven't talked. I mean, the biggest difference in that Hawaii game, we've been scoring touchdowns in the red zone. We had to kick field goals, so that 21-0 or 21-7 was 13-7. So that 3 touchdown or 2 touchdown lead was 6 points. That's a big difference. We've been doing a great job of that, of scoring touchdowns in the red zone. We did not do that in the Hawaii game. Some of that's due credit to Hawaii. You gotta do what you have to do to win the game, and that's, in this particular game, in the Hawaii game, we needed Ash to carry it 31 times. If that's what we need this week, that's what we'll do.
Spencer just having some fun with Ashton Genty, and social media is having a lot of fun with the way he stands straight up in the backfield. Is that an advantage thing to see, or is that just a personal thought of his? I think a couple of the other running backs are doing it as well.
Oh, I think that's probably a social media invention that has caught hold, and now people are doing it. I don't pay too much attention to that.
Did he do it? Did he start doing it because he just made him more comfortable, or
I don't know.
You don't know anything, right?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. He's pretty good at it, though.
Dirk, how impressive was the ground game there in the fourth quarter and to finish it off, in the second half against Hawaii?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one thing that that a running game does is I think that showed up in the Washington State game as well, that we didn't, we ran it better in the fourth quarter than we ran it in the first and second quarter. And I think some of the teams around the country, and I've been plenty guilty of this in my career too, is you have a tendency to give up on your running game too early, and you can wear a defense down if you're able, with time and score, if you're able to hang in there with your running game, you can sort of wear a defense down a little bit in the fourth quarter.
What do you think of the way Maddox played against Hawaii?
He had some good things and some not so good things. I mean, it wasn't his best game. It wasn't a bad game. I mean, the things that we talk about every week. Mad Dog does a good job running the team. He's not turning it over. He's getting the ball out of his hands, which is having the effect where we have very few negative plays in the pass game. But we need to be more consistent with our ball location. So it's a work in progress. It's been a little up and down.
When you have a bye week, can you work differently with one-on-one with him on certain things, or is it more still the team concept, or is it a little bit of both? Or?
Both. We had things for everybody at every position that we were trying to get better at. Different things that we saw either off the self scout or just stuff that we had in our notes that we were trying to get guys better at. We practiced twice over the bye week, so you're not gonna get a ton of that. But anytime you point things out to these guys, that's one thing these players do a good job of, is they, when you point things out to them and make it a point of emphasis, they're working to try to make it better.
And when you say Maddox and ball location, is that just fitting it into the target more precisely, or?
Some of it's timing when you let it go. Some of it's ball location, inside, outside, high, low. Some of it's footwork. Some of it's trajectory, what type of throw. So different concepts.
Probably an obvious common sense answer here, but with we mentioned the turnover battle earlier in the game. Just in a game like this, and how important it is to win in the turnover battle. Yeah,
it's important. It's important every week, and obviously UNLV is number one in the nation in that. Now, one thing where that stat is a little bit skewed is that's based strictly on fumbles and interceptions. Our defense getting those fourth down stops. That our I think they got 3 fourth down stops last week. So I think on the official stat sheet we were even. I think we were even or +1 against Hawaii. We were really more like +3 or 4 when you count those fourth down stops. But we're doing a good job of not turning the ball over. They're doing a good job of taking the ball away. So let's hope the trend on our side continues.
Just an observation. In practice, like in years past, the quarterbacks, they always threw into like nets. And
I'm not a big net guy. I'm not a big net person.
Why is that first important?
I've never seen a net make a catch in a game.
So is that more for your quarterbacks or more for the receivers, or who's that?
That's just more for me. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Dirk.
Questions for Erik? Your secondary now has, I think, 7 sacks on the season. When you're able to get that production, from them, more than just ends and linebackers, how dangerous does that make your defense?
Yeah, I think when you can make non-traditional rushers real, anytime they're at the line of scrimmage, they can be coming or they can be dropping out. So you got to honor those things, and that allows other people to get some one-on-one action. It doesn't allow you to, as an offensive line, it doesn't allow you to slide it to the people away from those non-traditional blitzers as much. I think you just have to honor those looks and make sure that everybody that's on the line of scrimmage, how it goes. Like if a guy's never blitzed and he walks up on the line of scrimmage, he's probably not real, and you can probably not count him in the slide protection. So I think that helps create one-on-ones for everybody else, and it helps disguise some of the things we want to do in coverage.
Do you have a set number of plays where you try to, put non-traditional rushers, or is it kind of a situation-by-situation basis?
It's kind of situation by situation, and we, I think we do a good job of looking at how a team protects certain looks, how a team lines up to certain formations, what we're going to get from certain formations, and we know, who's important that we need to have in coverage in those formations and who's available to blitz. So I think that, our GAs, the other coaches on our staff, we do a good job of just breaking down protections and the looks, and that determines more on who we send than just I feel like, a DB needs a sack right now. Like, I don't care who gets sacks. I just like sacks.
Eric, when it comes to sacks, I think there's a perception that when it happens, it's like a dude beating another dude or a perfect play call, but how much of it is it a team? And the secondary might take some heat at times, but how much? There's also coverage sacks amongst the 29 that you've had, right? So how much of a team does it take to get some of these here?
Yeah, a lot of coverage sacks, especially last week. There's quite a few coverage sacks, and then it's a very team-oriented stat, especially the way we're doing it right now. Obviously, we got some really good edge rushers, but sometimes those guys have become the grenade a little bit and took a double team and allowed somebody else to get a sack. So it's very unselfish the way some of these are coming right now. DBs are having to play some man coverage, having to play some zero coverage, some of those kind of things in order to allow us to get those sacks. So, maybe if we played a little bit more zone coverage in rush 3, maybe we could get some more picks. Our team seems to be better when we're on the hunt a little bit and when we're aggressive pressuring the quarterback. So I think with the demeanor of our team, that's kind of where we're at. Now I'd like to get some more turnovers, some more production in that area, but kind of our formula is still being developed a little bit.
In a game like this, speaking of turnovers, when their defense is taking a lot away, and I know it's always important, but how big is the turnover battle on Friday?
Yeah, I think the turnover battle's huge. Obviously, last year when we played UNLV, we were able to create a couple, and I don't know if it was maybe 2. I can't remember right now. You guys will probably have the stats, but those turnovers in a big game against a really good football team can make or break you, and we know they create turnovers, and they've had a lot of block punts and things like that. So I think that if we can create a couple turnovers in this game, that will go a long ways, and everybody in this room knows that to get the ball back in the hands of Maddox and Ashton Genty is a big deal.
Just on those turnovers, Erik. Dirk made a good point that turnover on downs aren't recorded on the stat sheet, but you guys have plenty. Just what makes you guys so good at making those 4th down stops and winning the ball back?
Yeah, first and foremost, the kids. Right? They play, they have a high sense of urgency in those situations. They play really physical in those situations. And then I think that we've put a big emphasis on Sundays in practice, which is not like a high intensity practice for us, but it's, a Monday practice. It's not a high intensity practice for us, but we've put a big emphasis on short yardage and some goal line, so that we can walk through those situations, we can get those fits exactly right, and then later in the week, it becomes much, much cleaner. We have done it the other way in the past, just like a lot of people have, where you're repping that later in the week because those situations come up very, very few times, and it's just not very clean, and then you got to go back and clean it up. So I think our coaches have done a good job of scripting those situations, planning those situations early in the week.
What's about Hodge, their quarterback, and he's got a QB efficiency rating is over 183, and he's the backup that feels like he's the one that's kind of unlocked what they can really achieve on offense almost.
Yeah, he's an experienced player. He's played a lot of football. He's very elusive in the pocket. It's going to be hard to get him on the ground. He does a really good job of, in my opinion, not doing careless things with the football. Like he knows which throws that he can make. He knows which throws that he likes to make, I think, and he's going to execute those. And if they're not there, then he's going to pull that thing down. He's going to try to get some yards, and he's going to get their team out of a bad situation. So I think he's a very smart quarterback. I think he's elusive in the pocket, and I just think he makes good decisions with the football.
Ricky White, in terms of the receivers you'll have to go up against this year, where does he rank?
Yeah, it seems like we see good ones all the time. Ricky is he's at the top of our conference for sure. I don't know. I think in our conference, kind of a cool thing is each one of these receivers is exceptional at something. I mean, Ricky looks just so smooth on film, and he has a great knack. Like when the ball's in the air, when the moment of truth comes, he's got a really great knack for making those football plays. So he's an exceptional receiver, and it's going to be a good matchup.
Him as a football player too, because I don't know how many guys with 1,500 receiving yards last year are also playing on various special teams units right now.
Yeah, it's impressive. I think he starts on 3 special teams units. And the thing that you notice about him on film is he's very calm and collective. He carries himself well. He makes a big play, back to business. Blocks a punt, back to business. So I have a lot of respect for what he does in the football field.
Spencer was just praising Shea for the way he came in and kind of took over when Tubner got ejected there. Just, what do you see from him playing a position that, kind of he wasn't necessarily, or a role that he's not necessarily as familiar with?
Yeah, I was proud of what he did out there. Those roles are very similar, but yet very different at the same time. So he had some of the conceptual things in his memory bank, in his toolbox, but there's a lot of nuances that he had to get ready for. Coach Stockton had to get him ready in between series and at halftime. We decided what calls to run and which ones not to, and after I talked to Shea, there was not very many that we had to take off the list. So I thought he did an unbelievable job of stepping in, filling in that role, and he had some production for Alex as well.
What are some of those biggest nuances that are different between the two roles?
Kind of the dime has to play a little bit more high safety and in the box. There's just a few more jobs, whereas that nickel's more of that in space apex linebacker.
Tubner staying on the field. Spencer said got to have him hit lower. What's that dialogue been like, and feeling pretty good about it?
Yeah, I think it would be a different story if it was maybe a guy that, was a little bit untrustworthy and you thought was doing it maliciously. I don't think that's the case at all. I think Alex plays harder than everybody else in the field, period, point blank. He needs to target lower. That's period. He needs to do that. We've had that discussion. The thing about Tubes is everything we've ever asked of him, he has done. And I thought kind of the first one, was kind of the quarterback diving on the ground. It's here nor there. Like those are tough ones. The last one, we can't do it anymore, and he knows that. He understands it. He'll get that corrected. I have full confidence. The bad part about that was the rest of that rep will go on the teach tape because he played that short hole technique like nobody's business. To have it end that way was not how you draw it up. But Alex will get that corrected, and we need him on the football field.
Last year's game against UNLV. I mean, I know this obviously isn't a championship game Friday, but just a big-time game with a lot on the line, and you guys already did that at their place last year. I mean, just to have so many guys that were a big part of that, obviously, game last year, playing there again this year. Does it help at all that they've been in a part of something kind of like this? Or?
Yeah, I think so. I think, having guys that have played in a big game, they know how to act, they know how to prepare themselves, they know how to get themselves ready, they know how to handle the things the night before the game. They know how to handle the media. They know how to handle the social media, all the pats on the back and all those kind of things. So I think having that experience is very helpful. But it's always a new game. You know what I mean? And we've got to get ready for some things that UNLV's shown on film. I'm sure some things that they have not shown on film that we will see. And like you said, we're playing a really, really good football team. It's going to be a really good game. So it's great to have experience.
For you guys on offense, you have Ashton that has all the rushing yards basically. For UNLV, it's like they're like the team that you look down and you're like, there's like 4 guys with like 60 to 80 yards, and you're like, oh damn, they have over 200. How do they run the ball so effectively like that?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of elements of triple option that go into this offense. I think the offense is it's so dynamic because there's pieces of the triple option, there's pieces of the spread, there's pieces of the zone read, there's pieces of big boy football in there. But anytime you get in those elements of triple option offense, there's a lot of guys that could potentially get their hands on the football. And I think, once again, they do a good job of making decisions with the football, when to hand it, when to keep it, when to pitch it, when to throw the RPO. So I think a lot of guys get their hands on the ball just because of the good decisions that are made.
Emmett after the North Dakota game last year, and finally had some production, and it fed to his confidence that all the hard work was worth it. Is anything like that kind of playing out with Jaden right now?
Yeah, I think I think Jaden has always seen like the hard work's paying off because he's consistently got better over the last, whatever it may be, year and a half. I just think that Jaden now, finally, in my opinion, this is not Jaden's words, in my opinion, he just cut it loose. He trusted his technique. He trusted that he knew what he was doing, and he just cut it loose and played ball, and that was great to see.
I think you ended up with 9 pressures. I mean, as of last week, that was like second most in an FBS game this year. And how impressive was that effort?
Yeah, super impressive, and I think those are things like that we all talked about preseason. Who else is going to step up and rush the passer with Ahmed, right? Those are things that we've seen consistently since summertime, spring, fall camp, all those things, and now he finally put it on film.
In case it happens again too. When Tubes went out against Oregon and against Hawaii, the initial or immediate answer was going with Bowen, and it usually lasts for a drive, and then you seem to shuffle the deck or whatever. So what kind of is the thought process there, and does it take maybe that moment in between series to figure out how much you really do have to replace an Alexander Tubes here?
Yeah, no, there's a few things that go into it. First off, Bowen's done a good job. He's practiced well. He's probably a lot to ask of a real young guy that's playing on special teams and all those things. There's no excuses, but all of our guys are on the field that we probably feel like are the best players, and Rod and Shea are rotating, 2 of the better players on the defense. They can't have the green dot. So Bo's got the green dot, so he's going to go in. Then in between the next series, we can put that on Shea or we can put that on Zion. They can't have it on when Tubes is out there. And at that point, we can get them ready for some of the things like, hey, we're going to put you back out here next series. Here's the 3 calls we're going to roll with. And then the next break, we can get them caught up to speed all the way. So there's a lot of factors that go into it, but that's some of the main ones.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Coach.
All right.
Thanks, Dirk.
See you guys.